I would say I thought, well, it's confetti. How hard can it be to learn the confetti business? When I tell people I'm in the confetti business or talk about artistry motion, a lot of people just react with surprise and they say, wow, I never really thought about that. Like a company to develop the confetti, you
Yeah.
see it and it's in all these events, but you never really think about how it gets there or who's behind that.
Hello there. And again, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate having everyone here. We love our listeners, of course. And without you, we don't have much of a podcast. So keep listening, sharing, liking, subscribing. You know the game, you know the routine. We appreciate you. And we love that we continue growing this podcast. Really super proud of the fact that we now have arguably the largest brand in all of lighting and most iconic brand in all of lighting, ETC, as a new sponsor. And secondly, Artistry in Motion, who are arguably the largest name in confetti. I'm really happy to have them on board as well. Very colorful brand, very nice company. They've had some really cool things that they've been involved with recently. And actually, we have their president, Joe Wojcik, on today, who will share some of that information with us. And so, yes, thank you to both of our new sponsors. We appreciate it. Of course, again, our platform keeps growing, and that is evidence of it. So, of course, I have to talk about AI. I haven't talked to you for a bit about this, and there's a few things I wanted to bring up today. Have you heard about this term, vibe coding? And it's funny because it was actually named by, I forget the guy's name. It's like Alexei, a Russian name basically, but he's a famous AI creator. He's on X and probably other platforms as well. Talks a lot about AI, talks a lot about coding, and really, really smart dude. But he was just talking one day and said, instead of setting up a complex coding environment, I love to use tools like Cursor and Lovable and now Bolt and some of these other ones that are out where you can just do voice prompts or you can type in prompts and say, I want a website that's going to do this cool thing and it's going to look like this and create this and whatever. And boom, it just starts coding. So it's kind of like jamming or just kind of goofing around and ending up with really cool coding that's done by AI. And so he coined the term vibing, and it just took off, and vibe coding became sort of AI coding, and so all of these really cool new AI products. And it's funny because typical of AI, like one thing is really hot. Like I remember just talking about and seeing and trying Bolt maybe 2 weeks ago. And now I'm seeing, 20 other apps out there that do the same basic thing that Bolt does. It happens very quickly in AI. Obviously, it's a very quick technology, so it would only make sense that it moves along very quickly as well. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And so what is vibing? What does it do? Like I said, it's instead of setting up, this really complex coding environment with coders and lots and lots of tools and tech and stuff, you are literally just prompting an AI coding engine of some sort and telling it what you want to do, and it'll start producing results immediately. So it's sort of like rapid prototyping in the manufacturing world. Or in songwriting, instead of getting the whole band together and sitting around in writing circles and doing it in a very sort of official way, it's like grabbing a guitar and sitting out in your backyard and singing along and strutting along, and you end up writing a huge hit or something. So that's vibing. It's just getting in a vibe where you're just communicating with this AI tool that is building stuff, and you're going, no, that's not what I want. I want something a little more like this or a little more like that. And so he called it vibing, and it stuck, and that is now called vibe coding. of course, with AI, we've learned all kinds of new words. So another one that people come to me about a lot, and they say, "How are you using AI agents, and what exactly are AI agents?" And it's a pretty simple term for a pretty general topic of they're helpers. They're basically AI helpers. It's like having a sidekick that is an AI app or an AI tool. And, digital assistants, some people call them digital assistants. They can do all sorts of tasks. They can code simple things. They can make decisions, solve problems, search for things. A lot of things AI agents can do. And in fact, I'm actually in the process. We're in a development cycle right now with GearSource, where we're building some really new, cool technology and a lot of stuff on top of GearSource right now. And we're enabling a whole bunch of agents in doing this. So we're not using agents to build it, but we're building agents into the process so that our customers can use agents to do things like search for gear and other things like that. So I'm not going to tell you too much about it because we are going to make some announcements in the next couple of months, but we are engaging not just one agent. So it's a little different than having employees or whatever, of course. They're not human. But also, agents tend to be very specialized. So you might have an agent that does this one task really, really well, and it does it all the time. You might have another agent that does something else. And so that's basically what agents are and how you would enable them. And I think many of you are probably already using agents, AI agents, and you don't know it. I know we are. We use them in HubSpot pretty regularly, which is our CRM and our communication hub. We use agents daily in that. I used agents, probably 20 times a day for different things. And so, agents for especially small companies, if you're a small business and you're always thinking, oh my God, I wish I could hire 5 more people, or I wish I could find 5 more people, or I wish I could clone myself, is a common thing, especially among us entrepreneurs, because we think we can do everything right and everybody else can't, which isn't true, of course. But, agents do that for you. Agents basically can take things that you would normally do that take 2 hours and do it in 30 seconds or 2 minutes and do it for you, where all you have to do is say, hey, agent, do this, and it'll do it to the best of its ability, which is usually even better than you would do it yourself. So I definitely would recommend that you yourself go figure out a use of agents. We are going to see desk programming agents. We're going to see, any tasks that are complex and take a lot of your time. I can see agents getting involved in those tasks in our industry and every other industry. And so what else did I want to talk about? Oh, I'm hearing about this bubble. You remember the tech bubble? If you're old like me, you probably remember a few bubbles, but there was a big tech bubble in 1999, 2000. This is when pets.com and some of these massive socks.com, there were like a bunch of sites that were started up in this boom, this tech boom at the end of the 90s that were just ridiculous. Like pets.com, socks.com were two of the ones that I can remember really well, but there were hundreds of them. And it created this bubble where it burst and lots of people lost lots and lots of money. And I mean, these companies were raising like $10 million in an A round of venture capital and spending half of it on a launch party for something that was never going to make any money at all. And it was just crazy. It was loony times. And so people are saying there's another sort of bust coming in AI right now, and it's partially driven by the amount of money that has been spent on these data centers. These massive structures that they're spending hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars building these data centers for AI. And one of the things that AI is doing right now is becoming much more efficient, where it doesn't need as much compute. And when the compute goes down, you don't need these data centers quite as much as you used to. And there are also starting to be competitors to NVIDIA who are coming out with more efficient chips or more efficient technology. And so, when things grow as quickly as AI has, just like a blink, basically, and it's gone from being nothing to being everywhere, you could expect that there's going to be some stuff that probably doesn't connect well or doesn't make money, doesn't become profitable, and goes by the wayside. And so, of course, again, investors are going to lose a lot of money because they're all betting on these things that are going to become unicorns, which are these like 1000x companies. You buy in at a value of $1 million and it ends up being $1 billion within a very short period of time. And a lot of people are just going to lose money on this stuff. So watch for that. I'll keep talking to you about AI. Of course, as always, if anybody ever wants any kind of pointers or anything, I'm not a genius, but I've been using it for a long time and I understand it pretty well. There are certainly people who are more technical than me, but if you are just a small business owner or a person who is just like, how do I get started? Like, how can I write a blog using AI? How can I, Google's hitting me with all these new tools and Facebook's hitting me with all these new tools. What do I do with these things? Of course, everything can write your email for you. It's funny. It's probably one of the few things I don't use AI for right now because I want to use my own words, not somebody else's. But anyways, reach out to me anytime. Happy to talk to anyone and help you through, your AI journey if I can help at all. And before I get on to today's guest, once again, I want to thank both ETC and Artistry in Motion. Amazing new sponsors. Love having you on board. Look forward to working together for a long time. So today's guest, Joe Wojcik, and I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. If I told you the spelling, you wouldn't know how to pronounce it either. But Joe is a seasoned international business executive with over 25 years of experience in global expansion, operations, and business transformation. Having lived in Japan and Hong Kong for 7 years, he has successfully launched and grown businesses in over 50 countries. Currently president of Artistry in Motion, which we're going to talk about today, Joe led the company to record sales and profitability in 2023. Previously, he held leadership roles at Herbalife, Rodan Fields, Arbonne, and Delphi Display Systems, driving international growth and operational excellence. As founder of Endurance Business Solutions, he advises companies on strategic market entry. Joe holds an MBA from California State University and a BS in engineering from Rutgers University. A competitive endurance athlete, he has competed multiple Ironman Triathlons and 8 Boston Marathons. Where does he find the time? Please welcome Joe Wojcik. Joe, good morning. How are you?
Hello, Marcel. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, it's what is it? Wednesday, midweek. Hi. I appreciate you doing this first and foremost. I know it's a little bit early in the morning over there, probably. Oh no, it's 10:30. And I was excited to do this because, quite honestly, I, along with most of our industry, probably never thought an awful lot about Confetti in the past, and I've learned a bunch about it recently. It is a big part of some really big shows. I could name a bunch of them, but I think people know Coldplay being at the top of that list of bands who really have made Confetti a huge part of their shows, and Taylor Swift, and there's loads of them, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, well, no, thank you for having me on the show, and I appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, indeed, when I tell people I'm in the confetti business or talk about artistry motion, a lot of people just react with surprise and they say, wow, I never really thought about that. Like a company to develop the confetti and, you see it and it's in all these events, but you never really think about how it gets there or who's behind that. So it's an interesting company.
Well, I don't think people understand the scale, the fact that, and we'll get into it, the fact that you're sending pallets of this stuff out to some of these tours, and people just think confetti, it's a little bag and you're going to kind of throw it at a wedding or something, and that's all it is. But I've come to learn a little bit about your company, and it's incredible, some of the stuff you do. So we'll get there. But most people that I have on my podcast, admittedly, I usually know an awful lot about them because they've been in the industry for 30 or 40 years or more sometimes. But you're relatively new to this industry, right?
I am indeed. Yes, I've been with Artistry in Motion for 5.5 years now, and so I'm a relatively, I would say, I'm a newcomer in the industry, and so for me, it's exciting, and I feel like a little kid, and I'm very curious, and I try to learn as much as I can, and attend trade shows, and I go out on our shows and events, and
Yeah.
masquerade as a technician. And so, yeah, it's pretty exciting. But I've had kind of I'll say kind of a different background, if you will, from people that have been in the special effects industry
Yeah, yeah,
for
I want to learn
years and
about that,
years.
but I want to ask you a question first about what you just said because, I know our industry sometimes isn't very kind to people who come from outside the business. The outsiders coming into our industry sometimes are not treated the same, or maybe they're not invited in right away into that sort of gold circle of trust or whatever you want to call it. Did you see any of that? Like, were people a little, who's this guy kind of attitude, or did they just welcome you instantly?
Well, I'd say in general, I felt welcome, or if there was that vibe, either I didn't pick up on it or I didn't notice it.
Yeah,
I think just certainly when I first got here, I had to learn the confetti industry and the special effects industry and our top clients and things like that. And so, as I said, I was anxious to learn and approached it in that manner. And I think. With the personalities, and I've had a great experience so far
yeah.
with the industry.
Proper degrees and a proper background in proper businesses. You came into this and went, "Whoa, this is a business," and because it is, sometimes it's a little wild, wild westy.
Yeah, indeed, and I think I have to say that when I first made the transition into the confetti business from a more conventional background, I would say I thought, well, it's confetti. How hard can it be to learn the confetti business? But I have to
Yeah,
say, and I tell people this all the time, people we're bringing on board, it's pretty tricky, right? There's a lot of different dynamics, it's just even in the production of confetti, right? And
yeah,
and I'm using a lot of math skills and geometry and algebra, just determining yields and different
yeah.
shapes and die cuts and reams and rolls and
Today's podcast is brought to you by Artistry in Motion. When it's time to make a moment unforgettable, Artistry in Motion delivers. Since 1994, they've been the go-to source for top-tier confetti and streamer special effects, turning ordinary events into explosive, show-stopping experiences. From concerts and TV productions to major sporting events and theme parks, they bring the wow factor with precision and creativity. So whether you need a massive stadium drop or a subtle, picture-perfect cascade, they make it happen on time, every time. Their team doesn't just supply confetti, they collaborate with show designers, event planners, and production teams to ensure every effect is camera ready and crowd approved. Want to take your event to the next level? Hit them up, artistryinmotion.com, and let's make memories happen. You invited me out at one point, and I visited and saw the factory and got to sort of see under your skirt in how confetti is done, really. And it was way more interesting than I ever expected it to be. And so I really want to get into that. But, when I was reading your notes today, one of the things that jumped out at me is you actually lived in Asia for, I think, 7 or 8 years, right?
I did indeed. Yes, I was fortunate enough to have an expat assignment, and it's one of those stories you hear many times where it's supposed to be. I was at the large multinational company, and it was supposed to be a 2-year assignment, and it turned into little over 7 years, and so it was really great. I'll say personally and professionally, we lived in Hong Kong for 2 years, and then moved to Tokyo for 3 years, and then back to Hong Kong for another 2 years, and so it was very rewarding. I was able to learn a little bit of the languages in each of the location and the
Oh,
cultures
interesting.
and customs. An amazing experience, and it was really, I think, shaped me as a person, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So it was
Yeah,
a great time, in
yeah. So you were
my
married,
career.
like you moved your family or your wife or whoever over there with you, or was
I
it just
I
you?
did. No,
Oh,
I had
wow.
just gotten married, and as a matter of fact, I had just had a baby. I had a son who's in his 20s now, and we moved over there. He was, I don't know, 3 or 4 months old, and so brought him over to Hong Kong. Then we had another baby while we were living in Japan. So yes, the kids were my boys spent a significant portion of their childhood in Asia, and so I think that was a formidable experience, and
Yeah. Oh, I'm.
we moved around a little bit, but
Yeah.
it was great.
So cool though. What a way to have your son was how old when he lived there then? Like from 0 to
Yeah,
8 or
like zero
something?
to seven.
Oh,
Yeah, and
okay.
the second one was like two
Very
six.
cool.
So yeah,
What
yeah,
an experience. I mean, it'd be even cooler if he was like 5 till 13 or something, right? Where you
yeah,
could
yeah.
really remember a lot of the cultural stuff and yeah.
And then we made quite a significant jump. We moved from Hong Kong to a small town in Idaho, 3,000 people. And so my kids, that was kind of a culture shock, because they were very used to these big, huge cities and the hustle and bustle of Asia. And
Right.
we moved to kind of a sleepy little mountain town in the middle of Idaho. And so that was kind of a difficult transition for them. But
I
yeah,
can't
it's
even
all good.
imagine. Like, for me, I I wouldn't even know how to handle that at my age, let alone as a small kid. Uh, so you moved back to Idaho, and what business were you in when you were in Asia?
So I was running some, like I said, I worked for a large multinational company. It was involved in the nutrition space, and I
Okay,
ran some of their businesses over there. When I was in Japan, I ran their Japanese business, and then when I was in Hong Kong, I looked after their Asian business. We had a lot of sales in China and all throughout Southeast Asia. So I traveled quite a bit, pretty extensively throughout the region. And then when I moved back to Idaho, I set up my own firm. I had a consulting firm, which the auspices were really just to help domestic U.S. companies branch out into Asia and
yeah,
Europe and Africa. I had spent a decent part of my career before moving to Asia, working in Europe and Africa, and so I set up this sort of global consulting firm that
interesting.
for companies that wanted to, if they wanted to diversify or expand their portfolio, how do we take our products to Asia? And so with my background, I knew a lot of, legal and real estate and tax and, permits and approvals and
Cultural, like I know that I started doing business with Asian companies both on the purchasing from them side but also on selling to Asian companies, and oftentimes I just bumped my head on things where it was like, oh no, you can't say that, or you can't do that, or they prefer if you do it this way, or don't ever ask for this or whatever. And I was just like, typical of me. I dive in head first into things and
yes.
figure it out. And I ran into a few situations where I needed some correction. you know,
Yeah, and that's what I think I brought. I was able to help navigate those, whether it's communication or customs or traditions or just a way of doing business,
yeah.
in addition to sort of the nuts and bolts of how to, enter a country and, get product approvals and permitting and, taxes and all that stuff. But just the more, the softer side is important as well.
So speaking of bumping your head, did you wake up in Idaho one morning and just bump your head and go, I need to get into the confetti business, or how did that all come about?
Well, I'll tell you when I had kind of a circuitous way to the confetti business, and as we dig into the story of Artistry in Motion, one of the primary owners, he and I knew each other from a previous life. I first started out my career in engineering capacity, and I was working at a very small company, and kind of a funny story. I was invited. I played basketball in high school. I played lacrosse in college, and I was invited to a basketball tournament, a 2-on-2 basketball tournament for this company. It was like a weekend type thing, and I got paired up with this gentleman. His name is Richard Graves, um, and he was the general manager of the company. So I was in my early 20s, and we ended up winning the tournament. We ended up winning this
Oh,
2-on-2
wow.
basketball tournament together, and so we developed a little bit of friendship. And he took an interest in my career, I would say, and I would say he was kind of a mentor to me. He ended up moving me over from my engineering position over to sales and marketing, and got me involved in, contract negotiation, and sent me around to trade shows and international travel and business, if you will. And then he also advised me and actually paid for me to go get my MBA. So I went to school at night for
Wow.
4.5 years. I worked during the day. I went to school at night at a local college in Southern California. And so yeah, so we had this relationship, and then we kind of both went our separate ways. I kind of moved over to Asia. He went and actually bought a confetti company. He and his business partner bought this confetti company. I think it's been 23 years ago or so. They bought the confetti company. And so he and I remained in touch, and when I was in Asia, he would invite me to the Super Bowl every year as one of his technicians. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it was tricky for me to get over to the US and go to the Super Bowl for the weekend. So I always had to politely say no. And when I moved back to the US and I moved back to Idaho, he said, "Hey, what about this year? Why don't you come and be on our confetti team?" And see how it's done. And so it was super fun. You fly in on a Friday and Saturday rehearsal and Sunday you shoot confetti and you leave on Monday morning. And so I did that for a number of years, and just as his friend, if you will, and he hosted me, and I got to learn just one little sliver of the confetti business in that
Yeah.
sense, where
Yeah.
I was a technician at the Super Bowl.
Well,
It's very
and you got to
exciting.
go to the Super Bowl,
Yeah, indeed.
which isn't that easy. So,
It was great. And so towards the end of his tenure, he was a little bit older and said, "Hey, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm, you know, getting tired and I want to do some other stuff in my life. Why don't you join me here? And, you run the company. I'll, give you some training and background. You learn the business for a little while, then we'll turn the reins over to you." And so I did. I was at a point in my career where it sounded fun and I was looking for a change. And I made the jump, and I, sort of shut down the consulting business and moved over to Artistry of Motion. And as I've heard on some of your other podcasts where you talk about COVID, it was probably not, looking at career choices, it wasn't great, because a few months after I joined, basically we had to go into
yeah.
hibernation for COVID. And
Yeah.
so I was questioning my career choice at that point. But like I said, we did everything we could, kind of went into
Yeah.
hibernation, got some loans to keep us afloat, kept just a really small core group of employees here, and just
I can only
navigated our way through it.
Yeah, I can only imagine you went to basically 0% of revenue, right? Like not many
it was
people
rough.
using COVID or
Not,
confetti
it,
during COVID.
no, there were no events, there were no
Yeah.
theme parks open. It
Not
really,
even weddings
we
and stuff, like small events.
no,
Like you couldn't even make it
no,
on graduations and weddings and like the
no.
little tiny business. So,
Yeah, so it was pretty tough. I mean, we had some, drive-by commencements or graduations, if you will, and
yeah.
just these tiny little events, and we used the opportunity to redo our website and things like that. But you're right. It was really lean times, as
Yeah.
most of the other companies in the special effects industry were, certainly. So, but then, certainly came out of it, and went very well in terms of coming out of
Yeah.
COVID. We had
Yeah.
some hiccups like everybody else did, just getting back online. But so that's why I got here. It's been a long, circuitous route, but I'm
Yeah,
really
I had
pleased
no
to be at
idea.
Artistry. That's a lot of
That's a
fun.
great story. Today's podcast is proudly brought to you by ETC. For 50 years, ETC has made a name for itself in much more than the theater world. ETC lighting, rigging, and control technology has scaled not only across the entire globe, but also to nearly any building size and type you could possibly imagine. Broadway shows, rock concerts, sports stadiums, outdoor parks, TV studios, convention centers, you name it, have all trusted ETC to make their design beautiful and their spaces safe. A big part of that trust comes from ETC's renowned customer support. The global 24/7 tech support team stands behind every ETC product. Whether you're in the middle of tech on a high school theater production or scheduling a light show on the facade of an iconic building, ETC's support has always been incredibly responsive and helpful. But now employees have even more of a personal stake in maintaining that reputation. The company has become 100% employee owned. Each person building the fixtures, developing the control software, and picking up calls is an owner at ETC. Outstanding support, reliable products, innovative technology. This is the foundation of excellence that ETC has built over the past 50 years. So, what year did you start it, Name?
2019. I started at
2019.
Artistry
Oh, right.
Motion
Yeah,
at
just before COVID, right.
Yes, indeed.
So, Artistry in Motion, I guess, is a sort of SMB, not a huge business, not a ton of employees or anything. But how do you, first of all, how do you get involved in some of the larger deals that they have? Like, are there not, mega companies out there, like, on the production side, you've got Solotech and PRG. Is there not a Solotech and PRG of Confetti? Or is Confetti niche and it's more small businesses that are really focused on confetti?
Yeah, I think we're just, yeah, I think we've built up such a good reputation, I'd say, in the industry through many different verticals, right? You
Yeah.
got the touring industry, you've got professional sports, with theme parks. And so I think, over the years, in the last, 25, almost 30 years now, the company has built up such a good reputation, and we've got great service and great products, I believe. And,
Yeah.
and so that has really helped us to avail ourselves to all these different companies. The PRG, they're a client of ours, and
Yeah.
we sell them hardware, and then we have a number of clients that are integrators, if you will, special effects companies
Right.
that will offer everything, and we're one small part. So we're the confetti and streamer experts, if you will, and then they can offer to their client, the haze and the fog and the cryo and the pyro and things like that.
Yeah. So you were saying that when you got into the business, you didn't realize how complicated it was. You thought, how difficult could this really be? We're just blasting a little piece of paper up into the air. Um, so what are some of the complications of the confetti business?
Well, I would say, certainly the raw materials, right, or supply chain, and we source all of our confetti, all of our tissue confetti, and our metallic confetti. All of our raw materials are sourced from the United States, and so it's all has to be flame retardant, right? All these arenas and venues, you have to have flame retardant materials. So we have to ensure the quality and the consistency and the inventory management. And there's some pretty large tours that come through us, and we have to make sure that we have enough raw material on hand to be able to fulfill those orders. And it's a lot of logistics. When these tours are going on, we've got to make drops at the right time so they have enough to carry on the truck to get them through a few shows and then meet up with the tour at the next show. So we've got to coordinate all that. And then, certainly the basics, the nuts and bolts in terms of pricing and figuring out what the yield is going to be from the raw material, and what the sizes and shapes and dimensions. And it's really just helping our clients with sort of their vision and their budget, and what they want to see, and how we can help them get there, both with the confetti itself and with the equipment that we sell or rent to our clients.
So, like, even you were saying sizes and shapes and dimensions and stuff. So, not all confetti is the same. Like, I would assume, confetti is all like either a square or rectangular piece of paper that sort of flutters in the air, and it's all made out of the same paper. And I guess there's probably different colors, but
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a standard rectangular shape of confetti, and which is kind of the generic, if you will. It's an
right.
inch and a half, I think, by 3/4 of an inch. It's kind of the standard size of a piece of rectangular tissue confetti. And yet we do everything from, we call it pixie dust. It's 1/4 inch squares, and we'll do snow effects for many, many clients where they'll want to replicate snow. And that's kind of a combination of a 3/4 inch square and a 1/2 inch square mixed together. We can also do special shapes. So we have probably 200 shapes in our library right now.
Wow.
Everything from
Hmm.
leaves to letters to numbers to pumpkins and stars and robots, and we've got a couple hundred different shapes. And we're making them all the time. We'll have a client come to us and say, I need a baseball bat, or I need a special triangle, or a
I've
certain
seen
company
money.
logo. Yes, we do a lot of faux money. And so
Yeah.
we have, I'd say, a unique capability where we can print faux money on both sides with fire retardant, flame retardant paper. And so we have that capability. We're seeing that more and more, I think, as confetti, people want to have a more, enticing look or something new and different. Usher last year at the halftime in Super Bowl had some money that came down, and that was provided by us, and we worked with Pyrotechnico on that, and which is a well-known company in the industry, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and we're able to facilitate we call them Usher bucks. And
Ah,
so, like I said, we have some capability, both not just cutting little rectangles, but
right.
different shapes, different sizes of rectangles or squares, and then custom confetti, which can be, it's custom imprinted with a logo or a phrase or some verbiage. Um, along with the faux money and things like that. We have a particular product called Technoflect that's an embossed metallic confetti that it doesn't cling as much as a regular PVC, and it's easy to clean up, and it creates an amazing look with lights. And so,
Interesting.
so we have that that particular.
When you guys like, there's probably some science to this, right? Like, you're not just cutting different sizes of paper, and I mean, even just like, so you're printing every single one of these. Like, if you're doing a dollar bill confetti or whatever, it's printed on both sides on every single one of them times 10,000 or however many are getting blasted out there. That's wild. But when I'm talking about science, like, so you mentioned I think pixie dust and snow effects and stuff.
Yes.
So are you actually like testing, cutting different shapes and sizes and materials to make them fly differently so they look more realistic, like snow or pixie dust or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
we've got a little testing facility in the back, and we'll fire up, whether it's our silent storm or a big blast or mini blast, whatever. We have a lot of different equipment
These are like the
to
cannon
launch
things
and
that-
disperse. Yes,
Oh,
the
okay.
cannons. So we have everything from, you could do anything from like a little hand toss to a streamer cup to a little handheld confetti launcher up to,
Really?
our big shots. And then we've got silent storms and big blasters and mini blasters. So we've got an entire suite of equipment to launch or disperse the confetti.
Yeah.
And then we will do some testing. Yeah, we will do testing and look at, how it flutters and how it falls and
Interesting.
just dial it in that sense and make sure that the effect that we're helping to create is, meets what the client's looking for.
Yeah. And so, like, especially on these bigger events, like Super Bowl or Taylor Swift or Coldplay or whatever, is there not like a problem where these venues or whatever are like, what am I supposed to do with all this stuff? Like, you're making a mess in a sense.
Yes.
But I guess on the flip side of that, like, people who are at those events are probably trying to grab that stuff too, because they're like, hey, this is like a memento. I can go put it on eBay.
No, indeed. No, it's a great comment, and we have recognized that trend, if you will, that memorabilia type of confetti or souvenir confetti, and so we just entered into a partnership with a company called The Realist,
Okay.
and they will source memorable items in the sports and entertainment area, and either auction it off or sell it, and so we just did a thing with them where they're selling some of the Philadelphia Eagles confetti from the Super Bowl. And
Oh, wow, that's
you can
crazy.
go on their website, and it's the confetti. So we like to think of it, hey, we're helping clean it up, and then there's also a secondary market for the collectibles.
But it's just
on
fake,
the
right?
backside.
Like, isn't it? You're just printing special stuff to put in those little packages or whatever.
No, this is stuff that was actually on the field at the Super Bowl. So
Wow.
we collect it, and then we authenticate it. They have authenticators there on hand. So we collect
Wow.
both the end of the game trophy and the Super Bowl Vince Lombardi shaped trophy. And it's collected, it's authenticated, it's been flown, it's on the field, and then the realist will package it in in this case, it's like a shakeable can, kind of a see-through, and you can shake it up and see the confetti, and it's got, Philadelphia Eagles defeated Kansas City Chiefs, February 2005, and it's got the date. It's a memorabilia type thing. And so
Authentic
we feel
beer
that,
smells from the floor.
yeah,
and stuff.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
got everything. Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
everything. So we
That's
think that
amazing.
could be a market for us where
Wow.
we can capitalize with our access and with the confetti we're doing for some of these unique environments to be able to offer memorabilia confetti. And so
That seems to make so much sense, like, because the stuff is literally a problem, right? So somebody's got to clean it all up, and why not turn that, like, it's recycling in a sense. You're recycling it, and
indeed.
and covering the cost
And
of cleanup at the
yes,
same time.
and all of our tissue confetti is very environmentally friendly. So it's all recyclable, it's all biodegradable, it's all flame retardant, it's all made in the United States from post-industrial consumer materials. So a lot of people say, "Well, you guys are just making a big mess." We like to think of ourselves. I mean, certainly there's a trend with sustainability and caring about the environment. We like to think that even though we're making a mess, it's a clean mess, if you will, and it's like I said, biodegradable, recyclable.
You've mentioned a few times that it's all sourced in the U.S. and is that like because you're patriots, or is that because The products are better. Like you're obviously there's always a lure to buy things in other countries, especially
Yes.
Asian countries, China, etc. There's always a lure there to do that based on profitability. So if I'm going to sell something for $10, I could buy it in the U.S. for $5 and make a decent profit, or I could buy it in China for 30 cents and make an enormous profit. So why is that a thing for
Well,
you?
to be candid, we have looked at Asian sourcing, and so far we haven't been able to find a source in Asia that has the quality and the consistency
Yeah.
and the properties that we need. The flame retardant. So we have looked, and certainly it's less expensive, but there's also shipping, and now there's duties, and who knows where those duties are going.
Yeah.
And so. We certainly want to be patriotic, but we're business people, and we have looked, and we just haven't been able to find the right supplier that where it would make sense to
Well,
offer Asian-based.
it's also probably like a premium product, premium clients kind of thing, right? Like your clients expect the best.
I believe so, yes. And like I
Yeah.
said, in terms of the consistency of the paper and the color too, right? Like we've got 28 different tissue colors, just tissue alone,
Huh.
besides like the PVC and the non-metallic, and we've got clean free and Technoflex and different materials, but just the tissue colors alone, we have 28 of those. And we want to make sure that when our clients are getting those colors that they've ordered, and that's the other thing that we could do pretty well, is we can mix and match and put different ratios in a bulk or in a sleeve, and so you can really create a customized effect. And I think that's what our clients expect from us, and maybe there is a little bit of premium with that
Yeah.
U.S. sourced and the extra labor that goes into making those ratios. And so as an example for the Super Bowl teams, there's specific ratios for each color that go into the Chiefs and the Eagles and any team. And so we
Wow.
work through our clients in the NFL to get those colors dialed in. And it's maybe 60% blue and 30% red and 10% white, whatever it may be. And that's I think one of our offerings, our capabilities, is to be able to have that customized confetti look.
So for Super Bowl, did you have to send both teams, both colors, both
We
confettis?
did,
Oh,
yes. So
really?
we go out there, we go on the field, and you never know who's going to win, right? And many years, not this past Super Bowl, but prior year, it was in overtime, and so you don't know. So you bring both colors, both teams out on your confetti gun. Each of these confetti cannons that we call the big blasters will go out and position themselves on the sideline. In past years, we've had six cannons on each sideline, so there's 12 cannons altogether.
Yeah.
And we'll launch the winning team, of course, and then the losing team will recycle it and,
So
and things
are
like
there
that. So.
three loaded with each team? And then you only blast the ones that are loaded with the winning team, or do you load
So
them
each
once the
each
game's
cannon
over?
has two boxes on it. Each cannon
Oh.
goes out there and they have two boxes, and then we will launch the winning team's colors. And it's a little tricky because the two things that we say in the industry or at the Super Bowl or some of these big football games are make sure that you shoot the right color and make sure that you shoot after the game is officially over. You don't want any
Ooh.
replays or time,
Yeah, right.
review of a call, or there's
Yeah.
2 seconds left on the clock, and you're
That would
kind of
be
in the field
bad.
waiting for the
Yeah.
call from the NFL saying, "Hey, confetti, go!" or the game it's officially over. And sometimes there's a runoff, right? And the coaches are on the field shaking hands, and the quarterbacks are shaking hands, and everybody's on the field, and the clock is still winding down, and we're just waiting. And so,
Yeah. Well, you got to
so
love
it's
sports then, because you sell twice as much for every game, right? Because
indeed,
you
yeah, no,
gotta
it's
supply it
good.
for both teams. That's hilarious.
Yes, yeah.
You got to get into like racing where, it could be one of 20 drivers or whatever. And you got to have all the drivers there, each of their numbers. And, depending on who wins the race, there you go. There's a business idea. I just
I
want a
like
small
it.
piece of it. I want a small
Thank you,
piece. That's
Marcel.
all.
That's good.
Yeah. No,
Good.
that's really cool. So from like, again, I'm a dummy. I don't know anything about confetti. From a technology standpoint, like I am an innovation guy. I love innovation. I love, like I talked in the intro to this podcast about AI. I talk a lot about AI, and in the industry, the part of the industry I spent most of my time is lighting. automated lighting specifically. A lot of innovation, constant, moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. So what are some of the ways like confetti or the delivery of confetti are moving forward, or are they? Are they just stale old
No, they
businesses that
are.
keep getting used, or?
No, there's some innovation, and I'll give you a few examples. We have just come up with three new products on the consumable side last year, and so I'll tell you that the first one that we introduced was a product called Glimmer, and it has the look of a metallic, but it's tissue based. And so I'll tell you that we have been seeing a trend in the industry where venues and arenas and acts and there's just a trend away from PVC and away from metallic because it's not very environmentally friendly. And so we picked up on that trend, and we'd see some acts where they would say, hey, we need to order 70% of the shows in tissue and 30% of the shows in metallic. And we're going to use the metallic at the venues that allow PVC and metallic because to be fair, it has a better look, right? And the
Yeah,
lights, and it's
of course.
shiny,
Yeah,
and it
that would
has
look
that pop
incredible. Yeah.
and that glittery look. And so we embarked on an effort with our tissue supplier to develop a product that, like I said, has a little bit of the shimmer and the gleam of a metallic, and yet is tissue based, so it's biodegradable and it's recyclable. And so we came out with a product that we call Glimmer. Right now, it's in two colors. We have it in gold and silver, and so I think we're trying to meet the demands of the industry, and maybe the world, if you will, in terms of more
Yeah.
sustainability and the move away from PVC and metallic, and the move towards more environmentally friendly products. So we came out with that last year, and we're hoping that we can offer more of those colors instead of just the gold and silver. We can offer additional colors as we
Oh,
go
that's
forward.
cool. And those are available in all the different custom shapes and sizes and stuff, or are those
Yes.
only? Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh.
So they're available in bulk, in the squares and the rectangles and the shapes. And then they're also available in streamer format too. And so,
Ah,
the streamers are nice because it's easy to clean up. And that's sort of the differentiator. Streamers, relatively easy to clean up. Adds a festive look. And then the confetti is certainly a little harder to clean up, but, bigger, bigger coverage point, if
and
you
are
will.
you using the same devices to deliver these to blast them, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So they work in all of our equipment and all the equipment out there, to be fair. And so yeah, I think that's one innovation we came up with last year. We also used to only be able to print on one side. The custom imprinting was only able to be done on one side unless we wanted to do a flammable product. And so we came up with a way this year to be able to, we developed a paper that is able to be printed on both sides where it doesn't bleed through, so you can see it clearly on both sides.
Wow.
And it's flame retardant. So in the past, we were only able to print on one side for custom imprinting for, say, a money or something like that. And now we can do two sides custom imprinted in flame retardant paper. And then we also
I would guess one of the
innovate.
challenges
Yeah.
there is weight, right? Like if it's too thick, the paper, it's just going to kind of drop like a rock. It's not
Yes.
going to flutter as much and do what you want confetti to do, right?
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
so there are different
So it's a
weights of the
balance.
paper. There are regular generic tissue is a 10-pound paper. The stuff that we print on normally is a 15-pound paper. And then there's a 27-pound that is for printing on both sides. So you're absolutely
Oh,
right.
okay.
The weight of the paper is dictates sort of how
Yeah.
you can use it.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. So what other innovation
And then
are you
we
working on?
also came out with I mentioned the Technoflex, that embossed material we have,
Yeah.
which looks really great. It's used in a bunch of Broadway shows and many applications. And so that used to be only available in bulk format, and so now we also have that to be able to be utilized in streamer format. So we have Technoflex streamers now, and
Ah,
so we have been very focused, as you mentioned, and what's new in the confetti world. We've been focused on. Last year, I'd say it was our consumables. This year, we're focusing on equipment, and you talked about, the technology and the lighting industry and things moving forward. And I think,
yeah.
we're looking at how can we improve our launchers, the dispersal of the equipment. And so we're looking at, DMX integration and onboard compressors and things like that. And just looking at at equipment, at all of our existing equipment, and figuring out, where can we improve and iterate on
I would guess there's some
that approach.
safety concerns there too, though. Like if you start to automate the blasting of these things, and somebody's walking by something and it misfires or whatever, like there's probably, I'm guessing, anyways. Is that an issue or
Yes.
a concern always?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And with our products, the other thing we've done recently is we've obtained CE approval. It's a European standard, and with that, we've placed warning labels. Just don't step in front of this. Or read the manual. Be careful here,
Yeah.
and so you'll see little warning stickers on our equipment now that
Oh,
that
that's
we
good.
didn't have. But
Yeah,
you're
that's good.
absolutely right. Safety is a big part of our what we do.
What about packaging? So like if I'm on a Coldplay tour, for example, and I know they are one of your big customers and use a lot of confetti, but am I just getting these barrels full of confetti, or am I getting specially sized packages depending on how they're being dispersed or delivered?
Well, yeah, Coldplay's a great client of ours through Strictly FX, and so, Chris Martin, lead singer of Coldplay, is very environmentally conscious. And you go to
Hmm.
his concerts, and he's got people riding stationary bicycles to generate power. And
Jesus.
there's carbon offsets, and all of the drinks are served in recycling, recyclable containers. And
Wow.
and so it's the same with the confetti. It's all tissue based, and we're very particular in the way we package the confetti so that it's very minimal impact on the environment. But yeah, I'd say they're at the forefront of sustainability,
But
environmentally
like if
friendly
I'm if I'm
policies.
doing if I'm doing just some sort of a show, whether it's a Disney or a wedding or whatever it is, do you package specifically for the devices that they're firing from, or is it
Yes, we
just
do.
big bulk bags or something of confetti?
No, we package and we find out how they're going to launch. That's a lot of times we'll say to our client, how are you launching this?
Yeah.
Which mechanisms, how big is the barrel, and then we'll be able to make a recommendation. And then, so for say our big shots, it's 2-inch barrel. We'll package the items in sleeves of confetti, and so it helps the operator. They open the bag, they pour the sleeve of confetti, whether it's just rectangles or streamers or a custom shape into the barrel, put a little
Okay.
cap on it, and they can fire. So it's the packaging is tailored to how it's going to be used and
Yeah,
what
it's like
what is going to be
pre-measured,
launched. Yes,
basically. Yeah.
yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I had no idea. I had no idea how some of this stuff. So what about new markets? Like, are you looking, so you're looking at innovation, creating, like I've always looked at marketing and sales as there's two approaches, creating more products for my customers or more customers for my products.
Yes.
And so as like the boss, you're probably doing a little of both, I'm guessing.
Yes, indeed. And I mentioned the one thing we're going to focus on this year is that collectible confetti and see how we
Yeah,
can,
that's an interesting
leverage
one.
that.
Yeah.
And then I think also that we're we've been in a good position. We work with some of the major theme parks, Universal Studios and Disney, and a lot of the sports teams and professional leagues, and a lot of the top Pyrotech and Pyrotechnico and Strictly and Image. A lot of the big integrators, we work with all of those Pyro Spectaculars, and so we have great relationships with all those clients, and are meeting their needs. And so we feel like maybe there's other segments, other verticals that we could tackle, and where we have a little bit of a presence, but maybe not as much as there could be. And so
Yeah.
schools and universities, right? And I think there's a lot of confetti opportunities, not just with, say, the traditional commencement, but maybe, at pep rallies and alumni awards and, athletic events and things like that. And so that's an area we're going to be exploring and seeing if that might add some revenue and exposure for us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And so, as I understand it, it is I believe the former owners have sold the company. There's new owners in there now,
Yes.
and from what I understand, they're pretty great people and stuff. Has that changed much for you, like business as usual type of thing, or
I'd say it's a little bit of a change. I'd say from an administrative standpoint, now we have new owners, and they're great guys to work with. But it's a little bit more administrative, right? Now we
Yeah.
have budgets and we have board meetings and there's strategy decks and there's, it's more disciplined, I'll say. It
It's
kind of
all
takes me
growed
back to
up.
what I did in my
Yeah.
past life. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'm used to it and I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with it, but just a little bit different approach, if you will. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit different for us in this transition, but it's great, and I think with having some new owners, new investors, it gives us some access to capital to be able
Yeah. That's
to
what I was going to
invest
say.
in some of these R&D projects and to be able to make some bets and on different things and see how they go. So I think it's an exciting time
Yeah.
in the Confetti landscape, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think every company grows to a certain level, and then you just need a different set of like what got you from here to here isn't going to get you from here to here
Yes,
usually, right? And you
right.
either need to change structure, ownership, something about the business to get to that next level, and so yeah, I mean, sounds like you're in a good place.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
I have one story if I could share with you, I
Oh,
think,
please.
which is it feels like Confetti is kind of having a little bit of a moment, and I don't know if you've seen like there's kind of a famous thing where Jalen Hurts had a picture on his phone, a screensaver. He had a picture of Jalen Hurts as the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they lost the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and the confetti was raining down on him, but sadly it was the Kansas City Chiefs confetti, and so
Yeah.
he saved that picture on his lock screen on his phone for the last couple of years as
Oh
an
my
incentive, as
God.
a motivator, where he was walking off the field under a sea of Kansas City Chiefs confetti. And so this year, when the Jalen Hurts and the Eagles won the Super Bowl, there was confetti falling on him, but it was Eagles confetti this time, and the I forget if it was Fox, whatever the reporter, ESPN, Fox, or whoever came up to him, the Eagles confetti was falling on him, and they said, how does this feel, Jalen, to have the Eagles confetti, coming down on you now, and so that was kind of a cool
Did
cool
he
thing
change
for.
his screensaver?
That's a
Hopefully.
good question. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe he
Yeah, he's
did.
got the right color of confetti now at least.
Yes. Yeah.
Another interesting story that you might want to expand on a little bit. I saw on your, I think it was on your Instagram page or something, that one of your employees became like Instagram famous from, I think it
Yes.
was either the
Yes.
Super Bowl or was it the national championship game? I can't remember.
It was the Super Bowl. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a great story. So we have these technicians that, load the confetti and launch at the Super Bowl. And so somebody took a video of one of our technicians. He's a young guy. He's in college. He goes to school up in Oregon. He's junior, senior. And he was loading the confetti into our hopper. And somebody caught this on camera and called him the confetti guy. And ESPN and SportsCenter picked it up. And it went, that typical phrase, it went viral, where I think there were 80 million views of this clip
Jesus.
where the
Wow.
confetti got, and there were
Hopefully he was in
14.
company swag or something, I hope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so
That'd be
he
cool.
had it had the Artistry Motion box, the box with our
Oh,
logo on the
cool.
side there. And so he had, I think there were 14,000 comments where people were like, "Oh, I always thought the confetti dropped from the sky. I didn't know it was, released up and then came down." And it was really amazing the publicity that this garnered. And one of the really interesting things that came out of this is that there was a gentleman who saw this clip who was the head of a major entertainment organization, and he said to his employees, "I want to test that big blaster. I want to test that piece of equipment for an upcoming installation they have." And so
Oh,
the
wow.
team from this organization got in touch with us, and we're in testing mode, I'll say, right now,
That's
to
amazing.
provide equipment and possibly consumables for this major theatrical sports product.
Well, and you guys, congratulations. That's incredible. I mean, when you get a direct lead like that, for nothing, basically, like it was something that happened very organically and very for free, and you get a direct lead out of it. That's pretty awesome. But you guys kind of hit the what's not a trifecta, but what's two? Because you got the national championship game and the Super Bowl, right?
Yes,
Which is
indeed.
pretty
So
incredible.
We do the and those are the only two events where we really send a whole team. We've got sort of a stable, if you will, of technicians that are, can do some work for us as contractors, if you will, on weekends, and they know how to use our equipment, and they have a lot of knowledge about, arenas and stages and stadiums. And so we have this group of guys, and we go out to the college football playoffs, and we do the Super Bowl every year. Many times these technicians overlap, and so yeah, it's very exciting. And so those are really the only two events where we will send a team of our technicians, and we work with Michael Feuer on the college football, and Feuer and Live Nation on the Super Bowl. And I think we've been doing the Super Bowl for close to 30 years. Right when the company was founded, they I guess what the company legacy or the history is that in the first Super Bowl where we did Confetti was 1997. It was in New Orleans. It was between Green Bay Packers and the New
I was
England
there.
Patriots.
Yeah, I was at that
You were
game.
there.
Yeah, I was at that
Okay.
game. I've been
And
at
the Packers,
two games in New Orleans.
okay. So the Packers won that game. And what we did is we engaged with 200 local high school football players, and we had a section of the stadium, and we duct taped two of our reusable handheld confetti cannons together,
Yeah,
and we shot confetti. And so that was, so it's gone
that's
from that in
hilarious.
1997 to having, 12 big blasters and a few big blasters for the trophy celebration on the sideline. So it's morphed into that. So we've been involved in
It's
every
grown a
Super
bit.
Bowl since
That's
97.
wild. And
Yeah.
it's funny because and this sounds like I'm blowing smoke, but if I think of sort of two confetti moments in my head, like if someone was to quiz me and say, give me two moments where confetti comes in that you can remember, for me it would be the Super Bowl and Coldplay. Those are like, to me, the two like instant in my head. I'm thinking Coldplay and I'm thinking the Super Bowl, because that's
Yes.
just like confetti on steroids, both of those, right? Like a
Yes.
ton of confetti, right?
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Coldplay, they use basically a pallet of confetti every night for one of their shows, and
That
they
is
have
wild.
special shapes. There's a sky full of stars. There's a song "Sky Full of Stars," and during
Yeah.
that song, of course, we have star-shaped confetti that shoots out. We've got butterfly-shaped confetti, and there's some
Yeah.
day glow and some regular, and there's different colors and streamers and
That's so
all
cool.
sorts of stuff. So it's kind of neat. If you go to a Coldplay show, there's, I don't know, I think 9 or 10 songs that incorporate confetti
That's wild.
into the song. So it's a
So
lot of fun.
I know you're a bit of not a bit of a lot of a fitness guy. So where did that come from, and where's it going?
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I kind of grew up as an active kid, and like I said, I played lacrosse in college, and then after that, there's not too much lacrosse playing you can do after college. I got into
Right.
some endurance sports, and ended up, doing some triathlon stuff. I got really into triathlon for a while, and I think I've done 6 Ironman so far, and
Jesus.
I wouldn't even say a dream, but just this, and it sort of, happened organically. Where at one point I said to myself, I've done a number of triathlons, these Ironman competitions, and I had done on 4 different continents, and so then my plan was I did one in every continent so far except for Africa. And right before when COVID hit, I was signed up in March of 2020 to do an Ironman in South Africa, and
Oh
COVID hit,
no.
and they postponed it. And so at the time, nobody really knew how long it was going to be, and they just postponed it for 6 months. So I kept training for this race, and then they postponed it again and again, and I said, I'm not racing. I'm just going to race domestically. And so I ended up doing a race in Florida. And so
Huh.
so, I still haven't ticked that box of an Ironman on every continent, and they don't have one on Antarctica, as far as I know. Or I'd have to make my own Ironman, but that seems kind of daunting.
Seems
But
like a small
yeah,
island.
so
You
I've
just
I've done
run
a
from
number
end to
of
end.
yeah, so I've done a number of these Ironman things, and I don't know. I like to I love fitness, and I'm trying to start up an Artistry motion cycling club. I just got some new cycling kit, and yeah, so it's one of my personal passions is just fitness and
Good for you.
cycling, swimming, biking, running, surfing, golf.
There are certainly worse habits you could be into. So that's amazing. Have you ever followed or read or listened to David Goggins at all?
I
Yeah,
have listened to, I've read his book, Can't
the
Hurt
first
Me,
one. Yeah,
the
yeah, me
Can't Hurt
too.
Me book.
Yeah.
I read that book, and then I've listened to him on a podcast that I tune into once in a while. He's been a guest on that podcast. So yeah, he's pretty inspiring. That
What's
guy's
the
overcome so
stuff that he
much. And
does where he
yeah,
does these like 100-mile runs, and for like after 20 miles his ankles broke or something, like
yes,
just
yeah,
insane stories, and he just keeps going. Like
yes,
he doesn't feel pain.
yeah, he's a unique individual. Yes, indeed.
He is crazy. Well, this has been amazing. I appreciate you doing it. I've learned so much, and hopefully the people listening have learned a little bit. And um, I guess best way to find you is at Artistry in Motion. Do you do LinkedIn or anything as well?
I have a LinkedIn, Joseph Wojcik, or yeah, my email is
Yeah,
joe@artistrymotion.com. And
cool.
yeah, we're here. And if anybody needs some confetti, we're the people to talk to. I'd love to engage and see how we can help.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Joe.